Hey everybody, welcome back to my garden in September. We are quickly approaching the end of the season as we are expected to get our normal first frost in the middle of October, so we're about 4 weeks away. That being said, we did have a very late frost last year, which didn't come until mid to late November. So there's always a chance that we can hang on to this a little bit longer. But most of my tender annuals will eventually get nipped by the frost, and right now the annuals are what is giving us the most color. I'm always so grateful for the annuals this time of year because of all the color they're giving us. Most of my perennials are just so spent this time of year. All right, well, let's start our journey on this side of the driveway today. Gonna notice the little blue ageratum there on the front. That's one of my favorite annuals that I used this year and last year. Another bright pop of color is the yellow coleus, and I believe the name of this one is Uptown Green or Downtown Green or something like that. But these were kind of a surprise, they weren't really part of the plan here, but picked them up. They were little teeny tiny guys. I had no idea that they got this big and robust, but they are just giving their all and they look amazing. I will definitely be keeping an eye out for these next year. I have 3 of them, 2 on this side, and then the third one is over there across the way. But these are performing so well in part sun. I have a couple other varieties of coleus in this garden, the red one, and I also have a chocolate drop, which is on the other side of the driveway. I'll try to remember that one over there. But you can sort of see the red throughout the space. Lots of repetition of that in here. I have a little group of Firelight Tidbits hydrangeas there. This one didn't perform that well. It did get a little bit of deer damage on it. But hopefully in years to come, I'll be a little bit better about watering and fertilizing and we'll get a bigger show. It's a beautiful celosia here. My parents came to visit and said it looked like a pile of worms. Which, I guess they kind of look like that, but just an interesting looking celosia for sure. Some salvia in here. There's also an Ogon spirea, which I'm planning to move to the side yard. Another group of Firelight Tidbits back there also didn't perform that well because of the deer damage. Alliums on the front. My white swan coneflower is completely out of bloom. I've decided to leave the seed heads up for the birds to enjoy. There's actually quite a few plants that you can leave up in the wintertime that have great source of energy for the birds to use during the colder months, and coneflowers are one of them. Blue Fortune hyssop, just about done. This section right here in the back is looking a little bit more fresh than this one here, a little more spent. And that one group back there is my gosh, it got so tall, it's just flopping over here. But, oh yeah, it needs to get cleaned up in here, big time. More annuals on the front here, salvia, there's some vinca, more ageratum, Arizona apricot gaillardia. This one is a perennial, but it blooms as if it's an annual. Such a great addition to the garden. Lots of seed heads on these. These ones can be a little prickly, so just be careful not to pinch them too tight, but you can easily just grab some of these seeds and just sprinkle them, wherever you might want some more little babies. Readily reseed themselves. Calamantha is blooming. This is pretty much full bloom right now. It really comes into its own this time of year, although it does start to bloom earlier in the season. Right now is when it's really doing its big thing. Tall zinnias down the way here. There's a pugster pinker butterfly bush. I didn't deadhead that one, so he's looking a little sloppy. But my Caryopteris is blooming. You can see some little pollinators on here. Some of the carpenter bees. I had this plant in the garden right behind me that sort of hangs onto a lot of water, and it was really struggling over there last year especially, and so I moved it over here in the spring. It is looking better. It's still not like thriving, not looking the best, but it is in the right direction. More calamantha down there. That red plant in the back is another type of celosia called dragon's breath. Bleeding Heart's Heliopsis is all done. But I've got some blooms on my dahlias. This is like dahlia season right now. Just a couple. That beautiful orange. Dragon's Breath celosia. Ogon spirea behind that. Looks really nice. There's an ascot rainbow in there. Just some more perennials. Big variegated miscanthus grass. Big group of zinnias down here. I am so ready to pull these out because they are all suffering from powdery mildew at this point. But I am leaving them up just for the pollinators to enjoy because these are one of the few flowers that are remaining in the garden right now. Behind the zinnias is a little hedge of the Miss Pearl butterfly bushes. Probably too difficult to see what's going on back there because it's a bit of a jungle here. But that's what's going on that side. More zinnias blooming here. Also some tall Verbena bonariensis. I have some gladiolus in here that I do plan on digging out and removing to the patio garden for next season. Just kind of want to redo this space for next year. Little hottie. Couple nice tall sturdy stems that didn't flop, but the ones on the skirt certainly did flop. So it'll be interesting seeing how that goes going forward. Let's take a long shot down here. Serendipity alliums are just about out. I have, looks like one final bloom coming in just a few days. That's the Sensation Pink Cone Flower, one of my favorites. Blue Star Juniper. There's another sedum here. It's the shorter growing mounding variety called Pride and Joy. This one flowers pink, and I do have another variety very similar to this called Bundle of Joy, which flowers white. But this was a beautiful, just covered in really pretty light pink flowers. Honestly, just a week ago was beautiful. Little Gold Star Rudbeckia, completely out of flower, but all of these seeds will provide sustenance for those songbirds to enjoy, especially the goldfinch. I noticed the goldfinch really enjoy the seeds. I did trim back daylily right here, also the Artemisia that was right here. Just trim that back, just, trying to get some things looking a little bit cleaner in here. Pugster Blue butterfly bush. Little Joe Pie weed. This is another one. You can keep this up. These are all like little seeds here. Let me see if I can find it better. Those are all seeds. All the phlox. Oh my gosh, it's so hard remembering what this used to look like. Dragon's blood sedum is finally starting to get a little more red. And my fall mum is blooming. Starting to bloom at least. Beautiful little kind of a yellowy orange color. And the lobelia, I've got the black truffle lobelia with the dark foliage and this other one, green foliage, but they're just about spent. The hummingbirds had a heyday with this plant. Highly recommend. Another vibrant red coleus. Really shows off in the garden. All of my liatris is fading. Lots of seeds in here too, so I'm going to leave these up as long as they, stay upright. Birds will enjoy that. The firelight tidbit groups on this side of the driveway both did a lot better. I'm not sure if the lighting's just a little bit better. Maybe you're better watering. Autumn joy sedum here. Let me stand back. Yeah. St. John's wort behind that. I've got some variegated Japanese iris beneath that Japanese maple. Super tall zinnias. Sunjoy barberry there. Here's some fresh blooms on the ruby giant coneflowers. What a treat. And the Anik rose. This one smells really nice, kind of fruity. Radiant Sibylla on the side here, Serendipity alliums. There is a Summer Crush hydrangea in here, which I think I probably will need to move. It's going to get too big eventually. There's also Plectranthus, which I believe is an annual for our zone. Don't think that's going to survive the winter. And on this side is that other variety of coleus called Chocolate Drop that I wanted to point out to you. This is like a trailing variety, so often planted up in containers and it just sort of spills off the edge there. But I noticed in this space, I planted it right here. That's where the root ball is, and it sort of trailed out this way, and wherever the roots touch the ground, they'll root in. And it sort of created this really beautiful ground cover. Like this one, especially on this side. Look how nice that looks. Just tucked in there. Super happy with that. Another one of that uptown green, downtown green, something like that. Coleus. Oh, it is just stunning. Meergem arborvitae right here. Ascot rainbow euphorbia. There's a Rheingold arborvitae, giving us a nice block. And we'll start seeing some of these sun patients here. I have them just kind of wrapped around the border on this side. Yesterday I cut the grass one level shorter than I normally do, and then I edged the lawn, and I also re-edged the borders of the garden, so they're looking very crisp, and it's amazing what a difference that makes. It really makes things look really clean. Look at all those sun patients here, and the zinnias too. giving us the color. I think these had just started blooming in the last video, and by the time we got to this video, they are completely out of bloom. So I think I have footage of when they were blooming. I'll try to put that back up on the screen so you can see, but it's a great plant. Even if it didn't bloom, it's just wonderful foliage. I have a lot of really ratty looking milkweed in here, which is, it's all I can do to not pull it out at this point. But I do have a few monarch caterpillars lingering on, and I do have to feed them. So they're getting what I have, which is not the greatest quality, but we're a little bit desperate this time of year. You can see those some patients on the border here just really lighting up the space. I had a nice group of phlox in here. Ultraviolet and prismatic pink were awesome. Really happy with this little layering effect here. This was a really good choice. And I do have a praying mantis. I think I saw it over here. Oh yeah, she's right there. And I say she, I don't actually know if it's a girl or a boy, but it does have a big abdomen, which makes me think it might be pregnant and maybe laying another egg sac in the garden for us. We can have more praying mantis next year. I think in a previous video I called this the Sugar Tip Rose of Sharon, but it's actually from First Editions, and it is called Summer Ruffle Hibiscus. I still think it gets about 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, so it's going to fit in that space very nicely. Playing the blue salvia in here. Obviously the pollinators enjoying that still. And the veranda cream rose. A couple new blooms here. My Peggy Sue iris is looking a little rough, but that's pretty typical for the bearded iris. So Japanese iris, the ones that are down there, those ones don't really get that yellow and brown color. They sort of, I mean, they kind of like weep out a little bit more, but they still stay pretty upright and tidy. Golden Hellery holly on the front there. I have some coneflowers out of bloom. Those were the Kismet raspberries. But I've left the seed heads, and you can definitely see where the birds have come in here and just pecked out the seeds. So that's great. Now these cones, look at this. It just looks like a little party hat. I did remove a lot of the zinnias that were in here. Some of them had gotten so tall. Even though I had them staked, they were just so tall and heavy. They were just laying across a lot of other plants in here. So I did pull the ones that looked the worst. But some of them are still in here just because. I have a bird nest spruce here, which looks fantastic. It's not looking that great right next to this daylily, which I need to move. I need to sort of space those out more appropriately. And then I don't think I've ever mentioned this one, the Crypsii Chamaecyparis, in any videos this year. I've completely neglected this thing, but I think I got this 2 or 3 years ago. And when I did, it was in a 3-gallon container. It was honestly about the size of this Encore azalea. It wasn't very tall. It was kind of rounded. maybe not even quite this wide. So it just looked like a cute little shrub when I got it. And then it wasn't until the summer of last year that I noticed the leader on it kind of making its presence. And I moved it over here to give it the space that it needs, and so it will fill out that entire corner. I don't expect it to grow much on the backside because the backside doesn't receive any sunlight at all. See that? It's not very yellow on that side either. But I just love the foliage on this. It's just so beautiful. I have like white and yellow through here. Kind of like a feathery, ferny texture, very graceful. I have a handful of Chamaecyparis plants, different varieties, and all of them are just tough as nails. I haven't had issues with any of them. Very, very tough plants, and I love them for that. All right, we're gonna take one last look at the driveway garden from this perspective, and then we are gonna move on around the house. All right, leading down the walkway to our front door, we do have this little section. This is usually where I plant my annuals, or all annual bedding flowers in here. I've tried an assortment of different things every single year, and I really haven't figured out what I like or what does well here. So last year I tried a bunch of different impatiens, and you can see lots of impatiens in here. They've sort of self-seeded themselves from last year. So the pinks and the purples and the corals, those are all impatiens that reseeded themselves from last year. They're sort of just filling in the gap, and it actually looks pretty nice. This year I planted up white begonias, wizard rose coleus, and a little blue lobelia, like a ground cover lobelia. I had to pull the lobelia very quickly. It sort of faded out very fast, and the wizard rose coleus, I don't know, never really took well to this spot. What remains has barely grown compared to a lot of my other coleus, right? And it just doesn't really look that good. But the begonias held on. Begonias looked good, still look good. So I'm really happy with that. I have an emerald green arborvitae here. When we moved in, we had one right here, but it ended up falling over because of a winter storm that we had that had a lot of ice and high wind, and the weight of it just kind of pulled itself out of the ground from the root. And anyway, I decided to replant it there. So I think I got one. It couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 feet tall, but now this one is probably 10 feet tall, wouldn't you say? So it's doing very well in this spot. And I have 5 boxwoods in the back. I'll probably try to just keep them in a nice, like, rounded shape. Eventually, when they do get so big, they'll probably just create like a small little hedge back here. And I have thought, like, I don't really need to plant anything back there. I don't. But if I did, I wonder if like a variegated Solomon seal would look nice. Those plants are so expensive though, and they take a little bit to, spread. So I don't know, just an idea. And here we have the front of the house. It is hard to tell, but I do have 2 hydrangeas flanking the steps up there. Those are the wedding gown hydrangeas. They're out of bloom right now. I also have 2 like blue hostas on either side of that. Some Boston ferns. And some containers I made earlier this year. Got another hosta here. This is Rainbow's End. There's also some pretty like lamium mixed in there with the wild rose heuchera. Always looks good, especially in the spring, but not too shabby right now. Also have a pittosporum called Mojo Pittosporum. This is just what remains. This is what remains from last winter. I lost 2 plants and practically the third one. That's like what remains of the third one. Emperor 1 Japanese maple here. Burgundy Glow Ajuga. You know, just gotta kind of finish out this little corner, but that should be all full next year. I think I will also add more of this right on this side, like right in front of the liriope, just kind of right along the pathway. I think this area can use it. More boxwoods on this side. I also have an enormous Sun King Aurelia, which I am going to move. I've decided that's the one I'm going to move, and I think I have a spot for it. I'll show you in just a second. Little hosta here. Some old school azaleas. These ones bloom kind of like a pinkish red color in the spring. One of the other fall projects that I do every year is sort of fill in kind of some barren, sparse spots in the lawn. So you'll see this throughout the video here and there. There's a gardenia right on center with that post. And then there's also 2 of the ruby slipper oak leaf hydrangeas back there. I added those last summer and they have taken to that spot so well. I'm very impressed with this plant, very tough. For me, these blooms, you know, they come out white and they quickly fade to brown. Maybe not quickly fade to brown, but I didn't get the ruby. Like there was no pink at all. And so I don't know if that's something that there's something wrong with my soil maybe, or maybe it's just my climate. Because I noticed a lot of people in the northern climates, like those people get really pretty vibrant colors with Japanese maples in the fall. And they really get that nice transitional color from the white panicle hydrangeas that fade to pink before they go brown. So just something to note. Jack Frost Brunnera on the front here, and the pink, Delft pink lace Astilbe here. I will need to relocate this little clump right here because it is getting a little too close to that rhododendron. But this is just how I like to design things. I purposely plant things a little too close with the intention of moving those perennials and annuals out as my larger foundation pieces and shrubs and trees start to grow and mature and get to their full size. So that rhododendron is obviously growing and it's looking really good, really healthy. That probably is my healthiest rhododendron on the property. And there's my eclipse hydrangea, which I added about 2 months ago, taking very well to this space. It's always a little risky to plant a hydrangea in the summer. You just have to make sure to keep them well watered, but this one's doing so well. So I think that's going to be very robust next year. And then I did move my Blue Boulevard cypress over here. That is our new anchor point on this foundation. And I'm very happy with this decision for a couple of reasons. Number one, the original planting spot that I had it in was a little tight. And I do think that maybe not next year, maybe not in 3 years, but probably like that 5-year mark, I think I really would have been in trouble and been like, yeah, this is really, it's not going to grow well over here. That's where it used to be, if you don't remember. But, you know, kind of close to the foundation of the house, you know, just, I don't know if it really would have been the most appropriate location for it. So I'm glad to have it here now. There's about 4 feet from the edge of the plant to the corner of the foundation, and also 4 feet from this edge of the plant all the way to the edge of the border. Pretty decent amount of room coming this way towards us. It's only going to get a little interesting on the side where the rhododendron is, but like I mentioned in my previous video, I can easily come in here and just do some selective pruning on some of these branches to keep the rhododendron away from the cypress. Another reason that I love this new planting is that it's blue foliage. It's interesting texture. It's soft texture. I think it's going to be so pretty when it snows. I'm just really happy with how this space has turned out. Now, I usually wrap up my hose before I shoot my videos, but I did have this out here for a reason to show you something we'll get to in a little bit. Further on down this way, we've got the variegated radicans euonymus there. Cute little shrub, love that one. A nice swoop of the burgundy glowajuga in through here. We have some more of those old school azaleas. These are the Korean spice, kind of like a pink purpley color in the spring. There's a PRS back here. I think it's a mountain fire PRS. Also a Sister Teresa hydrangea. There's the old spot where the blue boulevard cypress was. I don't necessarily have any plans necessarily for this one, though I am considering putting the Sun King Aurelia from around the corner. We just saw it. I'm thinking of putting that over here because we certainly could use a shrub of that size. Oh, sorry, not a shrub, perennial. A plant of that size, right? You saw how big that was. And it's also, it definitely is more green this time of year, but most of the season it is like a nice chartreuse color, nice and bright. And I think that would really add to this space, give us some more yellow. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm going to think about it this winter and see. Maybe the Sun King Aurelia will be the best choice. But I'm also foreseeing like maybe another like small evergreen shrub or a small conifer, like a tiny little tater tot one. And perhaps a small tree, maybe. I have a butterfly Japanese maple that I really want to incorporate into the landscape somewhere. And I've had it for about a full year now. That might be an option. I think eventually I will be putting one of those screening fence things, like those horizontal slat things around the AC units to sort of hide them because, yeah, they're a little ugly, aren't they? They are. Okay, now you guys can see my hose. I have been on the fence about sort of redefining this border just a little bit, just kind of creating a little more of a curve here. It's a little straight right there, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, it's subtle. It's a subtle curve, but I just want to accentuate that a little bit. So I'm just going to carve out that little sliver of grass and create that nice, pretty curve along the border here. There's our Twombly's Red Sentinel Maple. Looking great. I have a little ring of 4 Invincible Wee White Hydrangeas right here. Hello, Rhea. These ones I did cut back, and then some of them have rebloomed. I'm calling these the redemption blooms. These ones are trying to convince me that they should stay here. And I think I will try them for one more year, at least. The 2 Sun King Aurelias in the back, though, those both need to move away from the house in some way. So I don't know. I might do like a grouping of Sun King Aurelias in that spot. That could certainly handle that in here in that area. It's a possibility. All right, and then moving on this way, we have a My Monet Purple Effect Weigela. It's a beautiful variegated variety, but it looks really nice here. And this is where I moved the Tasman Ruffle Pittosporum that used to be our anchor point on that corner of the foundation. I had mentioned this in the last video that it was looking a little stressed out, dropping a lot of leaves, sort of stretching a little bit, showing just some sign of something not quite right. And the reason that I know that something's wrong is because I have a second one that I purchased at the same time, planted probably 15 feet away from each other, but that one is still looking very full and healthy, and this one's just looking very thin. So whatever, we're trying it in this spot. Hopefully whatever was the issue over there will not continue in this spot, but we'll see. I had to shift around some of the astilbes in this area, no big deal. I guess there is room to put something else in here. I don't know if a Sun King Aurelia would be good here, because eventually they get so big. You guys saw that big one. Eventually that would be too big. I'll have to think about that. Rhododendron, hostas, more burgundy glow-ajuga. There's some liriope in here. And as we come around the corner this way, I had sort of done some work in this section prior to shooting the last video. So we'll talk about this, I guess. I had added in these two shrubs. The one in the center here, which is looking amazing, is Snow White Indian Hawthorn. This is fabulous. There's not a single stressed out leaf on this plant. It looks very happy and healthy here. The Florida Sunshine Elysium, on the other hand, is looking pretty rough. I do not know what's going on, if they're not getting enough sun or too much sun or not draining well soil. I don't know. So I have a doubt they're probably not going to make it through the winter, and that's fine. I'd rather them go ahead and bow out sooner than later, so I can move on with my design idea. But the other plants that I wanted to get in this spot are the Silver King Euonymus, Rheingold arborvitae, I think it's called a fine red wine weigela, and one of the Ogon spireas from the driveway garden I want to add over here. So I'm going to have to source those in the spring. But for now, this is what we're left with. We got a couple Cordalo Chamaecyparis or Hinoki cypress. There's a Globe Nana juniper, Carnival watermelon heuchera, Frosty fern selaginella, tucked in some impatiens. There's a Radiant Sibilia in here, two emerald green arborvitaes right on the corner, softening the edge there. There's a dogwood, which is getting very tall. Not very wide, very tall. And on the end over here, we have the serviceberry tree, which needs some sort of pruning in some way or another. And we have the globe blue spruce. So we still have lots of area in here that needs to be filled in, which I plan to do next year. On this side, everything from these limelight hydrangeas down to the camellia is going to change. All of this stuff, I don't know if it's going to get reconfigured at minimum, but I don't know if it's going to stay. But I just want to redo this whole side. Just has really been struggling. The big problem that I have is this maple tree, which just sucks the life out of the soil, and it's really difficult to find anything that will live underneath it. Everything on this side, however, I'm really happy with. Most of this stuff I did add last fall and this year. So we have a camellia here. There's a silver sword, variegated azalea. There's a little gem Norway spruce, another dogwood here, Sun King Aurelia, a macrophylla hydrangea of some kind, not a named variety. There's a ivory halo dogwood. I hope it's not dead. I hope it's just that time of the year. But it certainly doesn't look that great. Pancake arborvitae on the front, golden duke hemlock, Ogon spirea, two of the excelsa arborvitaes. There's the second Tasman ruffle pittosporum. Can you guys see the difference? How full and healthy this one looks compared to that other one. I don't see any dropped leaves down here either. Yeah. Cool splash bush honeysuckle, 3 of those on the front. And then there's 4 hydrangeas. What are these called? Summer bloomstruck? Yeah, bloomstruck hydrangeas, 4 of those, and 2 rhododendrons. This area is struggling. These are evergreen. These are not supposed to look like this. I don't know if this is sunburn. Maybe a little too much sun over here. Possibly. Could be a water issue because they are competing with these big tall trees with their big established roots. These hydrangeas have defoliated early. They're not dead, but they certainly dropped their leaves, probably because not enough water over here. So I need to expand my drip line over here and get this a little more automated. That'll make my life easier. Oh, and then as I'm noticing my hose line again, I do also want to kind of give a little bit of a curve to this side as well. So I do want to still have a nice curve around, but then just kind of come up a little bit and feed into that curve right there. So again, it'll be a small sliver, but at least it'll take a little bit of that hard edge out. What do you guys think? I think a nice curve. I don't know. For me, I prefer a nice curvy border. All right, we'll make our way to the backyard. You can see more lawn repair through here. Oh, what are you doing laying in the garden bed, Brea? Alright, before we go over to the pond garden, I just want to start at the patio garden really quickly. So right here we have the Blue Point junipers, 3 of them. I purchased these in 3-gallon containers. They're about 2.5 feet tall. This was back in 2021. So you can see how big they've gotten very quickly. Very tough. Junipers are very, very tough. They don't need a lot of water. Nothing eats them. These have been a wonderful screen to have here. We did have a cardinal try to build a nest in this tree earlier in the spring, and we did have a robin successfully build a nest. They love evergreens. Beautiful blue foliage. It is a little prickly. You can shear these up, size control them a little bit if you need to. In this patio garden, I did already pull out the wild and crazy zinnias that were in here, laying across everything, looking real sloppy. And I also cut the foliage out from the Niphofias that were in here too. So just doing that alone really has opened up this space and cleaned it up a lot. So I'm so happy about that. You can see my aster blooming. This one is called Lady in Blue. I did order this one online, and I'm really happy with this one. You know, this time of year when anything is blooming, I'm just so happy to see some color. I have another one that I ordered, at the same time in a different location, obviously, and it's not doing well. So I will be moving that one to a different spot, but just a wonderful late blooming aster. I also have a narrow leaf ironweed back here. I have one on the other side that looks a little bit better. Also some autumn joy sedum. I think I have 3 in this bed, but yeah, not bad for the year. I think the long-term plan for the patio gardens is to incorporate some evergreens of some kind to create some sort of unity in here. But I also think it'd be a smart idea to always save room for dahlias in the very, very back. I think that's something like, why not? Why not? This is the perfect spot to do that. Just, they can be nice and tall. They have the deck railing. All right, look at these beauties. Cute. Yeah. So things will be changing up a little bit in this garden bed. There's another aster here. I believe this one's called Purple Dome. It just started blooming just a couple of days ago. But I think eventually this will just be covered in an umbrella of purple flowers. Again, that calamintha blooming very heavily this time of year. Such teeny tiny little flowers on that, right? They look really good with that purple though. Here's the other ironweed plant. little gold star rudbeckia. Nothing but the seeds on here. Even those for the birds. Look at that. These little seeds. Good energy source for the birds. And these coneflowers too. They'll enjoy the seeds on these. Pugster blue, butterfly bush there. My blue shag white pine is starting to shed a little bit. This is normal for the pines. My Vanderwolf does the same thing, as does all of our native pines. You probably can't see because I'm not going to zoom in, but the pine trees around us are even starting to brown up a little bit and drop their needles. So it is just something that happens to the pines this time of year. There's the other aster, right? A little bit weaker. Need to move that to probably a sunnier location. Forever Goldie arborvitae, love that one. And some assortment of perennials around the front here. Now, I want to talk to you about this lawn project that I'm working on. So the dogs throughout the course of the year really do a number on our lawn, and I don't focus on it during the garden tours normally because it's so awful, but you know, we are trying to train them to only go to the bathroom out in the woods. That's preferred because they do burn spots in the lawn all over the place. But they also run and chase each other and trample through here. And this is just a very high traffic area, this whole section right here. So I'm in the process of reseeding it, and I have recruited these plant stakes that used to be in the gardens supporting plants, keeping them upright. But as I've started cleaning out the gardens and more of these supports become available to me, I've just been creating this little fence around my grass seedlings, which I'm sure you're looking at this, and yes, of course, my dogs can fit in between those stakes, but it's inconvenient enough that they don't come running through here, which is what is most important. They don't do that because they just ripped out all the seedlings that we put down last fall, and then I had to resod that whole patch in the spring, and that was not fun. So I know it looks a little silly and certainly a little unsightly, but it's working, and it's only temporary. And I need to finish out this spot. You can see what the lawn used to look like. Really dry, really sparse through here. Once I get some more stakes available, I'll expand the perimeter out, and we'll just try and repair this whole little section there. See, all the things I do for you puppies. Okay, pond garden. My sugar time crabapple tree. I hardly ever mention this one too. But that one is there, doing well. I don't believe that one gets too tall. Maybe like 15 to 20 feet tall. I'm guessing here. I don't think it's a big one. It's kind of like a medium, small size. My husband and I were out here just last night, and he was looking at these impatiens, and he was like, "Is that a bush?" I was like, "No, it's not a bush. It's like probably 10 annuals just, in here really tightly together." But isn't this amazing? This big mound of annuals. Oh my gosh. This variety is beastly for sure. I remember starting the season off, I had acquired these ones, a different variety, and I had just enough to plant like maybe three or four on the front side here, and I ran out. So I had to go back to the store to get more. The nursery was sold out, so I had to wait a couple of weeks, and they got another shipment in of a different variety, and I obviously did not know that because look how similar they look, right? This one's definitely more pink. This one's a little more of that like fuchsia purple color. Similar foliage color as well, but certainly a more vigorous and large variety of sun patient. These ones are fabulous. Been just a nice showstopper in the garden. Love them both. You guys see how big that frog is? He is the king of the pond. I don't know if I'll be able to get too close before he retreats into his cave. Just a second, let me see. That's as close as I can get. Okay, wow. Anyway, he's very happy here on his throne. Some other things in this garden. We've got a radiant Sibylla right here, kind of getting smothered by the impatiens. There's also another one right on the other side. I have two groups of the Japanese variegated iris, one right here, one right there. I added these to the garden last year, and they've done so well. You know what? This one is a little bit expensive when you first buy it. I think I paid like about $20 for a gallon that might have had like 3 or 4 rhizomes in it. And it took a little bit, but I've been able to make divisions on this over the years, and I've been able to multiply my groups and create more groups, and I'm really, really happy with it. It's a great one. Got a nice like white variegation through here. Right? It kind of looks like a grassy, upright grassy texture. Just really love it, and it does well in moist soil conditions. There's a Tamukiyama Japanese maple there, lots of different hostas. I do want to get more of the Burgundy Glow Ajuga and replace the Creeping Jenny because she is becoming a little bossy, a little too bossy for me to keep up with. Lots of really wonderful things in the shade. I love the shade garden. In the coming weeks, I am going to, another frog there. In the coming weeks, I am going to trim back the foliage in the aquatic plants. This is the pickerel. Trim that back and then put my little leaf net over the pond for the winter, which will help keep a lot of the tree debris out of the pond, which is helpful because I don't want all that material decomposing throughout the winter because it really messes up the oxygen levels for the fish, which have to live in there throughout the winter. So I do that, and I also do that because it makes it a lot easier for me to clean out in the spring. I clean it out every single spring. But our little fishies are in there. Alright, this side we've got more of those beautiful sun patience on the border. Frozen margarita hostas, which definitely got enjoyed by the deer. That's okay, it happens. I've been growing hostas on my property for 5 years. This is the first year I've had deer damage, so I'm not going to complain at all. They deserve it. They deserve to enjoy that. Summer crushed hydrangea here. The show of this garden in like mid-June. She is just a beacon. Beautiful. There's also some astilbe in here. Keep the seed heads up. You don't have to, but I like the texture that they have. Just kind of float through there. I had added in some Ascot Rainbow Euphorbia earlier this year. So there's one right here, another one right there, third one underneath the ginkgo tree, and there's another one right through there where the maple is. And those are evergreen for us, so I'm excited to see how they look in the winter, because almost everything else in here is a perennial that completely disappears in the winter time. The hostas, the astilbes, the annuals will obviously be gone. The ginkgo tree, the maple tree, the hydrangeas, those all defoliate, so they just look like barren sticks out here. So it'll be nice having something evergreen to look at, finally. And then around this side, we have that beautiful black scallop ajuga. I think it's starting to turn like even more purple as we've been getting the cooler nights. And this is a Japanese holly that I added to the garden. I think I got this like early in the season, probably in March, called Kufujin. But it's a beautiful like variegated one. I have really, really good luck with Japanese hollies, all of them. I have 3 different varieties. They are just tough. They don't let me down at all. No problems whatsoever. Mirror Jam arborvitae right here. Another friend for it over here. And that is our pond garden. Now, I also want to talk about the garden behind me, which I've also been neglecting to share with you guys at all this year. I'm pretty sure I don't think I've been over here once this year. But this is my screening border, which I started 3 years ago. 3 years ago, and I started with the cryptomerias. Those are the Radican cryptomerias. And when I got them, they were probably about 7 feet tall each. And they were both in probably a 10-gallon container. And I was able to fit both of them in my car. I remember being so proud that I could do that. But they're so big now. I mean, somewhere between 12 and 15 feet probably. Staying very narrow for now, but I think they do thicken up a little bit. Let's see, it's hard to tell with this big birch tree here. Really pretty. Also tough as nails. All the cryptomeria. Very tough. Also, at the same time that I added the cryptomeria, I added these 3 arborvitaes. These are the Jantar arborvitaes. They're very similar to the emerald green arborvitaes, except they have a more yellow tone. And they certainly show that more yellow on this side because this is where they get the majority of their sun exposure. There's also a really cool mushroom down here. Is it a turkey tail? I don't know. Anyway, I started with those conifers. And then the following year, I added the camellia, the 1, 2, and 3 Jack Frost ligustrum. I also added in the Oregon green Austrian pine. There's the Vanderwolf white pine right here. There's an Arizona cypress. Oh, what's the name? Carolina sapphire, Arizona cypress. What a mouthful. These 2 both can get very big, and they probably cannot both live here when they get to the sizes that they want to get to. So I'm letting them duke it out. I don't know what. I might have to move one of them. Probably the Vanderwolf. I don't know. There's a Fireglow Japanese maple here. Looking pretty good. 3 more Radiant Zobelias on the cap. I have a Encore Azalea here. That's the Autumn Twist. And I also have another one by the Jantar arborvitaes. That's Autumn Embers or Autumn Bonfire, I forget. Duraheat birch tree in the middle. I do want to limb this up, remove all of the branches from about here down. So this is a little more open. I really want to see the trunk structure on that. And this is where I have been rehabbing my Avondale redbud tree. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to this in the spring of next year, if it flowers at all or more branches die. I don't know. Just gonna wait and see. And this is the ginkgo tree. This is the original one. My old dog Aspen's memorial tree. And then my new dogs chewed it to death. And I thought it was a goner, but apparently it wasn't. So I did buy the replacement tree, which is in the pond garden, but I never threw this one away because it came back to life suddenly. Not crazy how that happens. Anyway, I do need to find a new spot for that. And this is how that border looks from a distance. It is kind of hard to see everything that's going on behind the birch tree right now because it still has all of its leaves blocking everything, but especially in the wintertime when it defoliates, it kind of just, all the evergreens just really show off back there. So it's been fun developing that and watching everything kind of grow and mature into that space. Well, my plans for the rest of the season are to slowly but surely do my cleanup. I don't like to do it all at once. I just sort of do it when each plant lets me know they have completed their cycle here. I just go ahead and pull them out. So once we get our first frost and a lot of the annuals get nipped, I'll just cut those back or pull them out at that time. The hosta foliage, the daylily foliage, all that stuff, as soon as they start looking ratty, I go ahead and cut it back. The perennials, I try to leave anything that has seed for the birds. I try to leave that up as much as possible unless they start to flop over and look messy. But there's actually quite a few things that you can just leave in the garden, and you don't have to do a fall cleanup. You can save some of it for the spring. It will still be there for you. Whatever jobs I can do right now, I like to do right now. So I don't save it all for the end. I don't want to overwhelm myself. As far as our monarchs go, we are at 46. We have released 46. And I have lost count of how many chrysalis we still have. We still have several, I would say at least 30 chrysalis that are awaiting their arrival. And we still have quite a few caterpillars left. I would say 15 or so that haven't gone up into their jays yet. So we made a comeback, It was a slow start, but we're going to finish strong. That's what counts. Yeah, but I'm just enjoying what remains of the garden, I will miss the garden. I don't really enjoy the winter because I can't be outside very much. And I don't know, I just long to be outside. I just get a little sad when I can't be outside. So just knowing that in 4 to 6 weeks we're going to have our first frost and all of this is going to be coming to an end, I just get a little sad thinking about it. But it's important, it is important. Every season has its moment, and I think fall and winter is a time to reflect. You can learn from your own garden. You can, revisit photos and videos of your own garden and make, little mental notes about this, that, and the other. But you can also explore some other people's gardens, which I love to do in the winter time. So as soon as Christmas is over, I spend a lot of time on YouTube watching other garden channels and seeing all the things that I missed this season because I'm pretty busy. I don't get to watch all the videos I would like to in the summertime because I'm too busy dealing with my own garden. But I love to just revisit, see what other people are doing in their gardens and gather inspiration and, hear what's working well for you and what problems others have been dealing with and how they got through them, because we all learn from each other, and I'm always thankful for that. Some of the people who comment on my videos, sometimes have some really good advice and have been very helpful for me because I'm still new at this, I might know a thing or two, but I don't know everything, and I probably never will. And I have a lot of fun learning and making mistakes and just figuring out what the garden wants, the garden needs. So with that being said, I'm going to give you my farewell message because I will not be posting another video this year. I will be seeing you guys in April of next year, and believe you me, I'm already looking forward to it. I'm already looking forward to April. I hope you all enjoy the remaining time in your garden, wherever you are, whatever zone you're in. Maybe you only have a week left. Maybe you still got 2 months left in the season. We're all kind of different all over the place, all over the world. But enjoy the remaining time you have with your garden this year, and just know that the garden continues to get better and better every year. It just evolves, it matures, it fills in. Things change, you learn things, you're challenged. There's always something exciting to talk about, to share, which is why I love the garden journey. It's just it just brings me so much joy. So thank you for joining me along this 2025 year, and I seriously cannot wait to see you guys in April of 2026.